Alright everyone, so let's talk about something that might not sound super glamorous, but I promise you, it's the secret sauce behind some of the most successful businesses out there, and getting it wrong can cost you, literally, millions of dollars. I'm talking about supply chain forecasting. Now, I know what you're thinking, Graham. What is that? Simply put, it's the art and science of predicting how much of a product you're going to need, and when you're going to need it. Get this right, and your business runs like a well-oiled machine. Get it wrong and you're either stuck with warehouses full of stuff nobody wants, or you're telling customers, sorry, we're sold out, while your competitors are happily taking their money. It's a high-stakes game. The reality is, in today's ridiculously fast-paced market, just guessing or going with your gut isn't going to cut it anymore. Accurate forecasting is the bedrock of efficient supply chain management. It's what separates the businesses that thrive from the ones that are constantly putting out fires and bleeding cash. When you can accurately predict demand, you can optimize your inventory, you can streamline your production schedules, and you can make sure your logistics are buttoned up tight. This isn't just about being organized, it's about making strategic decisions that have a massive impact on your bottom line. It's about being proactive instead of reactive, and in business, that's where the real money is made. So, for everyone watching, whether you're running a small e-commerce store from your garage or you're part of a massive global corporation, paying attention to this is non-negotiable. Following the right practices, the simple do's and don'ts we're about to go through can save you an incredible amount of time, an unbelievable amount of money, and a whole lot of resources that could be better spent growing your business. We're going to break down exactly what you should be doing and, just as importantly, what you absolutely need to avoid. So make sure to smash the like button for the YouTube algorithm, and let's get right into the first and arguably one of the most important do. Alright, so the very first thing you absolutely have to do is use historical data. Think of it like this. If you wanted to predict the weather tomorrow, you wouldn't just stare at the sky and guess. You'd look at weather patterns, you'd see what happened yesterday, last week, and even this time last year. It's the exact same principle in your supply chain. Your past sales data is a goldmine of information. It tells you a story about your customers' behavior, about seasonal peaks and troughs, and about the natural rhythm of your business. Ignoring this is like trying to drive a car down the freeway with a blindfold on. You're just asking for a disaster. Diving deep into this data allows you to spot patterns you would otherwise completely miss. For instance, you might see that sales for a particular product spike every year in the third week of November. Why? Maybe it's a pre-Black Friday rush. Or maybe you notice that a certain item sells twice as fast whenever a specific marketing campaign is running. These aren't just interesting little tidbits of information. They are actionable insights. This historical context is the foundation of any solid forecast. It provides a baseline, a starting point that's rooted in actual real-world performance, not just wishful thinking or a gut feeling that this is going to be a good month. So your first step, before you do anything else, is to gather and clean up this data. Look at your sales records, your order histories, and your inventory levels going back as far as you possibly can. The more data you have, the more reliable your analysis will be. You want to analyze it by product, by region, by customer segment, slice and dice it every way you can. This isn't just busy work, it's detective work. You are looking for the clues that will help you build a much more accurate picture of the future, which in turn lets you stock the right amount of product at the right time. Now, just as important as looking at your own past is looking at the world around you. This brings us to our first, do not ignore market trends. Your business does not operate in a vacuum. It's part of a massive, interconnected ecosystem that is constantly changing. What your competitors are doing, what's happening in the broader economy, what new technologies are emerging, and what your customers are suddenly obsessed with on social media, all of these things can and will impact your sales in a big way. Relying only on your historical data without considering these external shifts is a huge mistake. It's like planning a beach vacation based on last year's sunny weather while ignoring the hurricane that's currently forming offshore. Think about it. A new viral trend on TikTok could cause demand for a product to explode overnight. A competitor launching a new innovative product could suddenly make one of your best sellers obsolete. A shift in consumer sentiment towards more sustainable products could completely change the game for your entire product line. These are not small fluctuations. They are market quakes that can send shockwaves through your supply chain. If you're not actively monitoring these trends, you'll be the last to know, and you'll be left scrambling to react while your more agile competitors are already capitalizing on the new reality. It's a surefire way to get left behind. So you need to make trend watching a regular part of your forecasting process. This means reading industry publications, following key influencers and market analysts online, keeping a close eye on your competitors' marketing and product launches, and even using tools like Google Trends to see what people are searching for. Pay attention to what's happening. Is there a new piece of legislation that will affect your materials? Is there a cultural movement that aligns with your brand? Staying informed isn't a passive activity, it's an active strategy that allows you to adjust your forecasts with a forward-looking perspective, making them infinitely more robust and realistic. Okay, this next one sounds like common sense, but you would be absolutely shocked at how many companies get this wrong. You have to collaborate with your internal stakeholders. I'm talking about your sales team, your marketing department, your product developers, and even your suppliers. So often, the forecasting process happens in an isolated silo, where one person or team is crunching numbers without any input from the people who are actually on the ground, interacting with customers and the market. This is a massive, unforced error. Your sales team, for example, has invaluable intel that will never show up in a spreadsheet. They're the ones talking to customers every single day. They know about that huge deal that's about to close next quarter, which is going to require a massive order of a specific product. They hear the customer feedback about a feature that's not landing well, which might signal a future drop in demand. Your marketing team, on the other hand, knows they're about to launch a huge promotional campaign that's designed to triple sales of a certain item for 2 weeks. If the forecasting team isn't aware of this, how can they possibly prepare the inventory? They can't. This lack of communication leads directly to stockouts or overstock situations. So, you need to break down those silos. Set up regular meetings between the forecasting team and key people from sales and marketing. Create a formal process for them to share their insights, their pipelines, and their promotional calendars. The goal is to create a single, unified forecast that blends the quantitative historical data with this qualitative forward-looking intelligence. It's about building a consensus. When everyone is working off the same playbook and contributing their unique perspective, the forecast becomes exponentially more accurate. It's no longer just a statistical exercise, it's a strategic plan built by the entire team. Alright, let's get a little more technical for a second. A huge mistake I see people make is that they find one forecasting method they like, and they stick to it religiously for everything. This is our next big, do not rely solely on one forecasting method. Think of forecasting methods like tools in a toolbox. You wouldn't use a hammer to saw a piece of wood, right? Different tools are designed for different jobs. In the same way, different forecasting models are better suited for different situations. Some are great for stable products with lots of historical data, while others are designed for new product launches or highly volatile markets. For example, a simple moving average might work just fine for a product that has incredibly consistent sales month after month. It's easy to calculate and understand. But if you try to use that same simple method for a highly seasonal product like Christmas decorations, your forecast is going to be wildly inaccurate for most of the year. For that, you'd need a more sophisticated model that can account for seasonality. And what about a brand new product you're launching with no sales history at all? You can't use a historical model. You'd need to use a qualitative method like a market survey or the Delphi method, where you gather expert opinions. The smartest companies use what's called a hybrid or blended approach. They understand that no single method is perfect, so they use multiple forecasting models and then compare the results. Sometimes they might even average the outputs of 2 or 3 different models to create a more balanced and reliable consensus forecast. This approach helps to smooth out the biases and weaknesses inherent in any single method. It gives you a much more nuanced and resilient prediction. So, don't just learn one method and call it a day. Explore different techniques, understand their strengths and weaknesses, and build a flexible forecasting process that uses the right tool for the right job. So you've done all the hard work, you've analyzed your history, you've talked to your teams, you've picked the right models, and you've created what you believe is a pretty solid forecast. So you're done, right? Absolutely not. This leads us to our next critical do. You must regularly review and update your forecasts. The market is not a static thing, it's a living, breathing entity that is in a constant state of flux. A forecast that was perfectly accurate a month ago could be completely useless today because of some unforeseen event. Thinking of your forecast as a one-and-done document is one of the fastest ways to get into trouble. You need to treat forecasting as a continuous cycle, not a one-time project. This means setting a regular cadence, whether it's weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly, to sit down and compare your forecast to what actually happened. This is called measuring forecast accuracy. You need to ask yourself, where were we right, where were we wrong, and most importantly, why were we wrong? Was it because of a market trend we missed? Was it an internal miscommunication? Was our model not a good fit? This process of constant review and analysis is how you get better over time. It's how you learn from your mistakes and refine your process. This continuous improvement loop is what separates the amateurs from the pros. Every time you review your forecast, you have an opportunity to adjust it based on the latest data and intelligence. Maybe sales are coming in hotter than you expected, so you need to revise your numbers upwards for the next few months to avoid a stockout. Or maybe a big marketing push didn't deliver the results you hoped for, so you need to revise downwards to avoid getting stuck with excess inventory. This agility is key. A static forecast is a fragile forecast. A dynamic, constantly updated forecast is a resilient one that can adapt to reality as it unfolds. And for our final point, this is a big one that ties a lot of our other points together. Do not overlook external factors. We talked about market trends, but this goes even broader. We're talking about the massive macro-level forces that can completely upend your supply chain, no matter how good your internal data is. I'm talking about economic factors like recessions, inflation, or changes in interest rates, which directly impact consumer spending power. I'm talking about political factors like new trade tariffs, elections, or international conflicts that can disrupt shipping lanes and skyrocket the cost of raw materials. Then you have environmental factors. A hurricane could shut down a key port for weeks. A drought in another country could devastate a crop that's essential for your product. And as we've all learned in the most dramatic way possible, a global pandemic can bring the entire world's supply chain to a grinding halt. These aren't just minor inconveniences, they are seismic events. While you can't necessarily predict a specific earthquake or political event with perfect accuracy, you absolutely cannot afford to ignore the possibility of these disruptions. A truly robust forecasting process has to account for this level of uncertainty. So, what does this mean in practical terms? It means building risk assessment into your forecasting. It means running what-if scenarios. What if our shipping costs increase by 20%? What if our main supplier in Southeast Asia is shut down for a month? Having contingency plans and understanding your supply chain's vulnerabilities is crucial. It also means staying informed about global news and economic reports. This broader awareness allows you to build a buffer into your plans and to react more quickly and intelligently when one of these external shocks inevitably occurs. Ignoring these factors is like building a house in a floodplain and being surprised when it gets wet. You have to be aware of the environment you're operating in. So, there you have it, the essential do's and don'ts of supply chain forecasting. Let's just quickly recap what we went through. First, do use your historical data as the foundation for everything. Second, don't live in a bubble. You have to pay attention to market trends. Third, do collaborate with your sales and marketing teams. They have the intel you need. Fourth, don't be a one-trick pony. Use a blend of different forecasting methods. Fifth, do make this a continuous cycle of reviewing and updating. And finally, don't forget about the big picture and the external factors that can change everything overnight. It might seem like a lot to keep track of, but mastering these principles is what transforms your supply chain from a costly, reactive mess into a streamlined, strategic asset for your business. It's the difference between constantly being surprised and being prepared. It's about making smarter decisions that save you time, protect your profit margins, and ultimately keep your customers happy. The best part is, you can start implementing these ideas today, no matter the size of your operation. Start by gathering your data, schedule a meeting with your sales team, and make it a habit to read up on your industry. I really hope you found this breakdown valuable. If you did, it would be a massive help if you just gently tap the like button and subscribe to the channel for more content just like this. The goal here is to give you the tools and knowledge to make better financial and business decisions. Start applying these do's and don'ts to your own forecasting process, and I promise you will see a tangible, positive impact. Let me know down in the comments which of these points you're going to work on first. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.